Quantum computing is the next AI. Morgan Stanley just put out a full report, which I've got a screen here for you, and they're basically saying the market is going to grow 145 times. So there is therefore likely to be a tremendous rally in stocks that benefit from the whole quantum space. So I want to give you here the 5 top stocks from my research, and in a nutshell, it is just computing on speed. So you are able to do everything way faster. You're able to do things that we cannot do at the moment. And it'll take AI to a level where it isn't just sort of human intelligence level, but just like 1,000 humans in one sort of AI bot. And it'll just allow us to do things that we can't even imagine yet. Now, the first thing I always look at, and I want to run you through the stocks here and some research, of course, this is financial advice. Winston, who's sleeping down here, did all the research, is the ETF. There is one big ETF, and again, that might appeal to some of you, which is called Defiance Quantum, ticker symbol is Q2UM. And that interestingly also owns some Japanese companies and some other stocks that might be a little harder to buy for most of us because we don't always have access to that in our portfolio. But why do I look at this? Not because I'm a huge fan of ETFs. They're all right, but I'm not a huge fan of them. But simply because it tells me about the industry. And I want to buy things when industry is just about taking off and when we're on a positive momentum, not when we're in the point where it's a falling knife. So to my opinion, this video is timely if you're watching it as I'm putting it out, because most of these quantum stocks are not at all-time highs, or if they are primed to maybe go a little higher, but a lot of them are actually have pulled back a bit, and that might give us a nice opportunity to benefit from what's to come next. So stock numero uno, it is Honeywell. Now, Honeywell is, in fairness, not a pure play quantum stock. The other 4 really are pure plays, but they are an owner, essentially, of Quantinuum, which is a spin-out. Now, Quantinuum, which is apparently going to be listed, I'll tell you about that in a second, collaborates with Microsoft on quantum computing integration. It has partnerships with JP Morgan for financial applications, and they're considering an IPO, about a $10 billion valuation. So Honeywell benefits tremendously from Quantinuum's advancing. I've got the stock on the screen here for you, and if you're like most people and like how I used to be, you look at a chart and you just think, oh, is it expensive? Is it high? I wanted to buy it down there, right? And that's sort of human psychology. But in reality, we actually really, really don't want to do that. In reality, we actually want to buy nowhere near the bottom of the market, and it's totally counterintuitive, and I get that. It's what we've been taught for many, many years. But usually things that are falling continue to fall, right? So like say it fell here, and then it went down a lot more, and it ended up down here. And yes, it has recovered now, but you didn't know that at the time, and there are plenty of stocks that never recover. So I, generally speaking, would avoid these sort of black zones down here where we are below, say, that purple line there, which is the 150-day moving average line. Below that is usually not a good point for investors. For traders, maybe, but certainly not for investors. So why am I liking where we are at right now, trading here at $232 as I'm recording this? Because we've basically taken out pretty much all recent highs, like as many as you can find. We are above it. And it means there is very little very little resistance. Now, I'm not making this up. That's not just my personal interpretation of this. This is what I've been taught by people who've done this for 20, 30, 40, 50 years on Wall Street. And they've made a lot of money. I'm doing quite all right. I'm very happily retired with my money management. And very few people understand it. And that's why I keep really running this community, because I think more people should understand this, because if more people understood this, more people would have a happy, free, fulfilled life. So if you want to understand the rules for free, there's a link down below, felixprehn.org/get-free, and there's a 15-minute video that teaches you the rules. Just teaches you the rules. Just watch it a couple of times. I know some of you watched it 5 or 6 times, and then once it really sinks in, you're like, wow, I didn't know that. I didn't realize that. But what are we seeing here in the short term? We're seeing a very nice breakout. So we sort of did that little zigzaggedy pattern, which you will understand if you watch the felixprehn.org/get-free video. And then we break out of that, we close above it. Volume, decent, not amazing, but decent. So we've done our kind of sideways consolidation. And the longer this consolidation goes on for, the longer we go sideways, actually, the better it is. Why? The people who got bored of it sold, and therefore there'll be mainly buyers left. That's sort of the theory with that. So I'm liking where Honeywell's sitting here. The second stock that I'm liking is IONQ. And of course, again, not financial advice, but what they do, they develop trapped ion quantum computers, emphasizing high fidelity qubits and cloud integration. I could have just said something to you in, Timbuktu language, if that's a thing. But here is something that you might understand, and that I might understand even, and simple mind over here. They have strategic ties with Microsoft Azure, Amazon Web Services, and Google Cloud for their cloud-based computing access. They've partnered with AstraZeneca, one of those lovely pharma companies for drug discovery, 20 times speed up in their drug discovery, and General Dynamics for defense solutions. So even if none of those qubit things made any sense to me, certainly, maybe to you, if some of the largest companies in the world are using it, there is probably some sense in that because they have smarter people working at those companies than my brain. They've also acquired Oxford Ionics to enhance trapped ion tech miniaturization just in the last quarter. And the stock has, it's been rather volatile. Ticker symbol is IONQ. Literally, we expect their revenue to grow 97% this year. So these guys are doing something right. And yeah, they had that tremendous rally. Then we had that tremendous collapse. And I was probably overdoing it a bit. But what are we seeing now? We're seeing a very nice, very gradual accumulation phase here. So we bottom out down here, right? And what do we get? Higher low, higher high, higher low. Okay, bit lower. Higher high again. Higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. And I could go on. You get the idea. So we've literally been on this sideways upwards trajectory here since March. And that's a very healthy sign. It just means there is just continuous more nibbling on this. And really, the only problem with the particular buy point right now is that we had these highs here at about just around the below $50 mark here. So if we go back to these highs here, which very unscientifically, actually, I could do that a little bit better, couldn't I? I could just read it off here. 48, 49. So essentially a close, I would say above 48.50 would be the more conservative entry point. So above 48.50. Again, this is not instruction to you. This is a note from myself. Okay, I just want to be clear on that. So could nibble on it here because we've taken out the recent highs, maybe even more aggressively when we get above 48.50. But it looks, I like it. I like stocks that are sort of consolidate near their all-time highs. It's kind of when they prime themselves for a potential breakout. Again, to understand this, the chart part here and the entry and also the exit. That's always the next big question people don't answer themselves, right? They're just like, I'm just going to buy it. And then the question will always be like, where do I sell it? Where do I sell it? Where do I sell it? What the masterclass. It'll teach you where to sell it too. The next stock on my list of top 5 quantum stocks is D-Wave Quantum. The ticker symbol is QBTS. They specialize in quantum annealing for optimization problems with universal gate-based systems in development. That meant very little to me. But they have a partnership with Carasoft for public sector access. They have clients like Lockheed Martin and Deloitte in their cloud platform, which is pretty cool and must be therefore somewhat decent. And they have achieved quantum supremacy in materials, sort of material science problem. It basically solved a problem in minutes, which classical supercomputers would have solved in millions of years. That's the quantum leap. That is why it's called the quantum leap. Millions of years versus minutes. Which one would you rather have? If you look at the stock here, had a tremendous run up in January, came back down to earth. Second tremendous run up, came back down to earth. And this is now the next tremendous run up. But one thing I'm noting here as a pattern is, let me get a green pen. But you can see the yellow line on the screen here, right? I hope so. So this is this yellow line there is the 50-day moving average line. Again, you can toggle that on in Trade Vision, which is what I'm using here, which is something we built. I never endorse anything else. And where did the where did the breakout stop? Just slightly below the 50-day, slightly below the 50, slightly below the 50, slightly below the 50, slightly below the 50. So right now here, we're pretty close to the 50, which to me says this might actually be one of those pullbacks that might be worth buying. You don't have to, obviously. I'm not telling you what to do. But if you look at every time we had these pullbacks in that general sort of vicinity, we typically were rewarded with much higher highs. And we had that high here. This high was slightly higher. That high was looking very good. It was then absolutely beautiful. And now it's sort of pulling back. And it's just because it's something people trade. It's obviously super, super volatile. If you're somebody who likes to not have any excitement in your life, quantum stocks are probably not for you. But I like this as a pullback. So D-Wave QBTUS for me is a pullback stock. Next on the list is Rigetti Computing, which very sadly isn't Italian. I keep lamenting that. And I have a small position on this one. I should disclose that. They build superconducting qubit-based quantum computers focusing on vertical integration and AI integration. They have a $35 million deal with Quanta to scale quantum systems. They work with NVIDIA on the CUDA platform, which is the sort of operating system of all AI chips, essentially. They partner with General Dynamics for government applications, I'm sure the friendly kind. They've launched an 84-qubit system with a 99.5% gate fidelity. Again, I don't know what that means, but it's something that is apparently meant to impress me. It has about a $5 billion market cap or close to that. And you might be thinking, Felix, you should only invest in things you understand. And I disagree with you on that. Now, if you was going to buy this and hold this till death do us part, then I would agree with you on that. But I'm investing this until my stop gets triggered. And my stop will either get me out at a small loss, or it'll get me out at a small profit, or at a large profit. They are the only three things that I permit. So for me, I don't need to understand the technology. I just need to see Wall Street investors are getting excited about this. There is this potentially tremendous market out there somewhere down the road in 2030 or 2040 or whenever. The market's forward-looking, by the way, so by the time we get there, this party will be gone. And therefore, what I'm looking at is like, what are the good entry moments and where is the possible momentum sitting here? And this has, again, been consolidating for some time here. It's been a little dull on the qubit front, Rigetti front, rather. And we've bounced off here a couple of times off that, again, yellow 50-day moving average line. For me, that's bullish. That's indicating there is actually some real support building here. Nice green candle there on Friday, decent volume. So, yeah, it's buying something on a pullback. It's not buying something on this sort of clean, clear rally up. I think that's why we bought something last time. But if you look at the awareness of quantum increasing, and if it is something that you think will, and that's a little bit where the belief system comes in, or at least we look at, is the sector continuing to attract money? And if you look at, this is the sector chart, essentially the CTF, well, yes, clearly is, because it's going up. So therefore, it's just likely that it's going to fall on the biggest stocks in that space. Least but not last, we have quantum computing. Ticker symbol is QUBT. They develop quantum hardware and software, sort of making accessible quantum solutions for enterprise use, so for companies. They aim to sell directly to those companies rather than go through the Microsoft, Google, and Amazon kind of gatekeepers. It has a much smaller market cap than its peers, which could mean, well, it could move a lot more. So it's easier to double or triple if you're a small stock than if you're already a $5 billion stock. So again, we're looking at momentum. That's really what we are looking at here. And we had some interesting momentum moments. We had a buy point we called here. We then zigzagged sideways again, which wouldn't have given us another buy point. And right now we're zigzagging once more. And you could argue that we should wait till we take out that recent high there at the top, which would be at $21. We're trading at $18.94 right now. Or you could argue, well, the momentum for the sector is sufficiently powerful for me to want to actually buy this on the dips, because I know this is something that's going to keep doing this, right? So we might not want to buy at the top. We might actually want to buy closer to the bottom. And that requires good risk management. That requires small position sizing so you don't get wiped out when this thing does drop 99%, which is entirely possible. So therefore, that's what we continue to do. Nibble smartly, cleverly on these, follow the rules, follow good risk management. But at the moment, I'm liking the consolidation in most of these names that I've mentioned to you here, because we've essentially done very little, right? And that's actually what I like. So again, it builds some support, and then typically, as long as the momentum continues, there is a decent chance we're going to break out. Now, there is also, of course, a chance that quantum turns out to be a whole load of nonsense. But then it has been sort of sanctioned by the smartest brains at Microsoft and Amazon and Google and everywhere else, and NVIDIA. So I think there is something in it. And I'm intent on making some money out of it. If you are too, learn the rules. That is what's going to help you, not just with quantum stocks, but with all other stocks. And Winston and I say, thanks a lot. All the best.
Wall Street analysts are starting to believe that NVIDIA could grow much, much faster than the overall market is expecting, and that could trigger another enormous semiconductor stock market rally for us. So I want to walk you through the bull case here for NVIDIA, why I think it might build double from here. And I also want to give you two more stocks that no one's talking about,